A lot of people who are particularly in the technical field, they are hit by this question saying, okay, what do I want to be? Do I want to be a programmer for the rest of my life, or do I want to change gears and do something? That's the reason why I've been content with my own personal journey to say, okay, am I thinking about the next and how am I preparing for it now? I never say no. I never say no
Yeah.
to something. So I think so that helped me transition from my role of being an IT manager to being the head of the global business. When you take on something new, be always prepared to leave something else that you were doing. I thought about being a work from home dad for 18 months until they got to a stage themselves.
Words of wisdom, like gold, literally gold. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this podcast where we uncover the stories, lessons, and insights of professionals who inspire us to grow and thrive in both our work and life. I'm your host, Sindhu Nair, and today we have an extraordinary guest who brings a wealth of experience, wisdom, and perspective to our conversation. Joining us is Satya Nand Jha, partner and chief business officer at Grant Thornton in India. With a remarkable career spanning leadership roles, impactful transitions, he's someone who has successfully navigated the complexities of modern business while maintaining a holistic approach to work and life. In today's episode, we'll explore three significant topics that Satya has chosen to focus on: leadership and management, work life integration, and career progression and transitions. Each of these areas holds valuable lessons for anyone striving to excel in their career and live a balanced, fulfilling life. Satya, welcome to the podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Sindhu, for your kind words and acknowledging and even seeing it as inspiring in the first place. It's been 26 years already, and feels like just recently I started my career, and as they say, good times fly faster. So
Yeah,
here I am.
amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today. And we'll just dive straight into it, get started with our first question for you. So, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile and going through your entire career journey of these 26 years. For us as listeners, it is such a long, long time and such a huge time span. So, when you started your career from a software engineer at SQL Star to becoming a
Mhm.
partner and chief business officer at Grant Thornton is truly inspiring. Can you walk us through your career story, how it all began, the pivotal moments that defined your path, and how you've evolved into the leader and the person you are today? So, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely, Sindhu. I'll be just sharing my life experiences and journey, and whichever way it can help your listeners, I'll be really happy, with my
Thank you.
contribution in any manner possible. But yeah, it started about 26 years ago when I did my computer engineering, actually. And so I trained to be a programmer, and that's where I started my journey with SQL Star. And it was like 1 year in my job. I got the opportunity to go to US. Actually, I started my job knowing that I have to really work hard and make something out of life. So in the first year when I started with that attitude, the opportunity came around much sooner than expected. Yeah. So, the very important lesson learned in the first job itself in the first year, that hard work pays. And we ended up asking our supervisor saying, okay, why us? Why not somebody else? And we heard it from her that you guys are hardworking and that's why you're getting an opportunity. So that worked really well. And the first few years continued being the programmer and developer. And then I just realized that everybody should have some focus and goal in terms of what they want. So the question that you were asking, so I asked myself, okay, what do I want to do next? And
Yeah.
with 4 or 5 years, I think it was 4 years at SQL, another opportunity came my way. So from that development experience, I took on this new role as a lead for about 5 years there, and that's where I learned quite a lot of things in terms of how to catapult your career and what sort of decisions and choices to make. So, if you allow, I would like to share some of that because I see a lot of people who are particularly in the technical field, they are hit by this question saying, okay, what do I want to be? Do I want to be a programmer for the rest of my life, or do I want to
Absolutely.
change gears and do something?
Yeah.
So as I worked for IBM, I realized that there were choices available. And so, as a planner in me, I started discovering or finding out what can I do to choose between the two and what does it take to be in one of these roles. And
Mm.
I realized that, some of certifications are really valuable for you as you are
Yeah,
planning to grow in your role. So you may know a lot of things, but if the world doesn't recognize that, then you're the only one who knows what it is. Uh,
exactly.
and so two things happened actually. So one was the people management training. So IBM was really great at that. I think they still are. And the other thing was certifying to be a project manager through PMI. And I'm talking about 2005. So
So many years ago.
absolutely. And when I focused on that, it really helped me because some of my contemporaries were not thinking about what it takes and what to do next. So
You were
so
one step
thinking,
ahead.
yeah, I was. I think that's the reason why I've been content with my own personal journey to say, okay, am I thinking about the next, and how am I preparing for it now? So I think that's something is really critical if you're talking about career and how do you get there wherever you want to be, basis
Yeah.
your goal. So I learned that. I learned a lot about people management through the trainings at IBM, and that became the seed which eventually I saw growing in the next job. So that was good. And particularly, I cannot forget one thing. Money plays an important role in all of that
Sure.
whenever you're thinking
Yeah.
about it. So when I was doing PMI, I can never forget the fee was about $554. I can never forget that.
Yes.
And that was a
That
lot of
amount.
money because I just had a set of kids who were just born then, and I was thinking about, do I spend this money in this or not?
Ah,
And I decided to invest in that certification, and I've never regretted because that became one of the reasons for my next role to flourish. As they were screening,
mm,
people and seeing what skills do you have, that
yeah.
topped the chart. And I started focusing on being more of a general manager or a people manager than just being a pure, a software person. That's the start of my real journey, I would say, where I felt thrived eventually. And then we spent, about 12 years at Bain. And that is one of the, pivotal moments in my life and career where I think the experiences helped me transform as a leader and and even strengthen my foundation as a person and a professional. So I joined to lead a very small team to begin with. And when I started, my goal has been that every couple of years I like to reinvent my role. So every other year, what I ended up doing is, okay, the first year was IT. But then the next year, I thought of understanding and learning something about HR. The next year after that, I learned about finance, and
Wow.
so that started helping me broaden my expertise and understanding of different functions of an organization.
Hmm.
So that was important in to contribute towards what I wanted to be, more like a broader general manager. The second thing I would say was learning to care for people, and that became very foundational. To say that, okay, am I demonstrating that, or am I just listening and moving on in my life? So
Yeah.
that became very critical, and to make sure that everybody was seeing that as a value coming from me was really critical for me in that job. Uh,
Yeah.
so that helped, and so every 3 or 4 years, I thought about, oh, what does it mean for me? What do I want to do next, and how do I prepare? So
Yeah.
that sort of helped. I think as we're talking about career, one thing somebody highlighted to me in my previous job, they said, and there was a very interesting, fun video recording of this part, which
Okay.
is somebody noticed that I never say no. I never say no
Yeah.
to something. So contrary to what people say, learn to say no.
Mm.
I tried to never say no to any new opportunity, any new experience that came my way. Okay. And that really helped me, as I was saying, so every other year I wanted to do something new. So somebody would say, hey, would you want to do this thing? And even if they didn't tell me, I would go and tell them, yes, I want to do it. And
Yeah.
in my head, tell myself that, look, you're asking for trouble, or are you asking for experience? Are you prepared to invest more or not? So I think so that helped me transition from my role of being an IT manager to being the head of the global business services, which continued for quite some time
Yeah.
before I thought about it's time to move on. And I guess the work kind of spoke for itself is what I would want to believe that Grant Thornton reached out and
Okay.
wanted to hire me to reorg firm and also develop on the journey of the firm as the firm was growing. So that became a very interesting opportunity for me to
Uh,
sort of get ready with all the new energy and say, okay, now again, do something new. And so yeah, so all of what I learned, it's just getting magnified and used in this role that I have as the chief business officer. But also
wow.
before, you sort of take a pause on this question, what am I
Yeah.
thinking next? So, I took on the role of sustainability officer besides my day job of the CBO
Yeah.
because I personally believe that, we all need to do something, not because it's the fancy thing everybody's talking about. So I said, how do I contribute in that way as a leader? So that is giving me new energies, to drive myself this year.
Listening to this journey and the story and the way you articulated um, the learnings as you went by from your first job to where you are right now, it's really inspiring. As just a listener myself, I feel the way you've thought about things is
Hmm.
not it's not how a lot of people end up doing, and that's why like it takes like a longer time. And I feel that what you've taken from each of
Hmm.
this, the first job, when you said that hard work pays off, is what you took on, but you also said that I want to layer it on. So
Yeah.
your foundations of hard work pays off, the seed of exploring what you want to do, how do you want to contribute to the society, all of that like builds your foundation as a leader.
Right.
And I feel that you have done such a fantastic job at it. And there's no question about you being a people leader. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you for appreciating that and bringing your personal experiences. I wouldn't have known if you didn't share that. So appreciate it.
Oh, of course, of course. Okay, just on that, when you were trying to explore what you want to do in your career, how did you create that long-term vision for your career? And how has it really evolved over time? And when I ask about how, would love
Hmm.
to know what exactly practical things that you did to explore on that vision.
Sure. What I did think of is, what do I want to do every 4 or 5 years? So, every now and then having, that vision of my own career, what experiences I need to gather to be in my next role is how I used to see it.
Okay.
And along the way, like I said, when I started as a programmer, I realized that I needed to do the ASP and .NET certifications, some technical stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then I moved to the next stage. I said, okay, now I want to be a manager, not necessarily a developer. Then the PMI thing happened. So every year I set my own goals for the next year is how I see myself. So it's not necessarily that I'm thinking about hopping at jobs, Sindhu. I think about, what do I really want? Have I worked towards it? And will this current firm give me that opportunity or not?
Yeah.
And then I have that conversation, here is how I'm preparing and tell me what else I need to do to prepare for the next role in the firm. And those conversations with leaders really helped me define my career and saying, okay, in order to be a general manager, somebody told me that, okay, think, what about your finance experience? What about your marketing experience and whatnot? And so having those working towards that and going back to some of those leaders to say, hey, look, this is what I did. Am I on the right track? So
Yeah.
these conversations really helped me being the chief business officer, understanding the nitty-gritties of that role, understanding the vision of the firm, what they wanted me to do in the role came all before the fancy title and responsibility. But that yes, it will take a little bit more from me. I may fail. And I truly mean, I may fail, but if I say no to this, I will never get a chance to even prove that I will succeed or fail. And that
Yeah.
helped me. That's about, how I've been thinking, long term career. I now purely think about how am I making the firm a better place or, the community in which I operate a better place. So that vision of my own career has been changing. And with some of these, roles, you get to make, a little bit heavier decisions
Yeah.
uh, and decisions that can impact many. So that's how I'm seeing my role now, to say, okay, every decision that I make, how is going to positively impact a broader lot of people that I work with, or the clients or communities. So
Yeah.
that's my new version for the coming 4 years, I would say.
How do you overcome, or did you even have a fear or something called the imposter syndrome? Like,
Mm,
did you even have that when you were moving from to a management position and into a senior management position where you have like such power to make
mm,
very, very important and strong decisions that could impact the firm, the people in the
mm.
firm? Did you have that fear?
I mean, did I have the fear? I won't call that fear, because if you remember the MBTI types, I am a very strong J type, right? So always, in my life, tried to over prepare for something to be done next. So I wasn't fearful of the role, but certainly I was trying to think about, what all do I need to do to make sure I don't fail. Okay. So you may just call that, okay, but concern in the hindsight, you could fail. So, but I think when I moved to senior management, I knew the way I had looked at my job, my earlier roles would change, thinking more strategic. When you get into
No.
the role, you really understand, okay, what really the strategy of the
Yeah.
firm can be, and how does it impact the entire firm.
Yeah.
So that was that. But also one thing, I realized that people are mostly consultative in approach. It
Mm,
so how do you develop that mindset is what I had started preparing for, and I came across this practice of coaching. So I trained to be a certified coach next. And yeah, so I did that from ICF. And when I did that, that changed my perspective again and helped me prepare for the next role as I moved into senior management. Because most of what I started doing was more like coaching people, asking relevant questions rather than just, telling them what they should be doing.
yeah.
And trying to be not judgmental of people or their stories. So if somebody would come with a problem statement, not imposing my own thoughts, but engaging to understand what different perspectives could be. So that certainly helped me prepare. And like I said, more of strategic thinking. That takes
Yeah.
a lot of time to get some things written on the paper.
Yeah.
So that was good.
There will still be that 1% of chance that we may not know everything we're venturing into, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So, but still venture into it and don't say no. So,
Yeah,
so
I think yeah, I think there's one other thing which is really important. You think about what can I do by myself to prove myself, right? And when you move in more senior management roles, you start thinking about, okay, I gain more by adding more people, and I lose by not having different people in this initiative or thought process. So that was a great shift in thinking process, so thinking of the firm, the we part of it versus the I of what does it mean for
yeah,
me. And it took some preparation, because otherwise it's a cutthroat world. Everybody's only thinking about what does it mean for them.
yeah,
So yeah, so thinking a little bit, for more broader outcomes and impact is something that people should keep in mind as they're thinking about taking some of these senior roles too.
yeah. It's also interesting to understand how do you balance those conversations, because there will be
Mm,
10 different ideas, and
right,
not everything's going to be great, but not everything's going to be bad. And then how do you balance it out in terms of having that conversation with people to respect that thought process, but at the same time make what the decision that is right for the firm.
right, right. Absolutely.
Okay. Amazing. I love that. Okay, I'm really loving this conversation with you today. I would love to know, transitioning a little bit to leadership and management, what strategies do you use to
Mm.
empower your team?
Okay, that's an interesting question, because that's also another buzzword. Everybody thinks they're empowering everybody else. Empowering people who I work with is through real delegation and decision making authority. So if I'm working with someone, I like to make it clear for people first to understand that, look, this is what I'm transitioning to you. So you have the ownership accommodations. And most of the time, I have seen people do better than what they think of their abilities. And
Yeah.
so when they get there is what gives you a fulfillment that, okay, you created the next layer, and they are freeing your bandwidth to do something more. I think that's been my mantra for a long time. And
Amazing.
And the other thing is, if I want to do something more, I can't do it with everything else that I was doing already. And so this is really important for everyone, as they are thinking about their own careers and roles. I've seen a lot of people doing it better than me, clearly. And, the next morning when they're moved into a new role, they forget about the previous one. And it surprises me sometimes. There's so much to learn from them. When you take on something new, be always prepared to leave something else that you were doing. And that's been, my way of empowering the team. Let them make their decisions, good, bad, ugly, and stand with them. Yeah.
That's a really cool way of and a great way of empowering people. And I just want to segue a little bit from this conversation into your work life management, and how did you navigate that in such in a career where you've invested so much time and energy? What were the strategies that you used there to be able to balance your work and life?
So I think work-life, balance or work-life integration, as people keep talking about. My personal belief and practice has been, when at work, I work 100%, and when I'm with my family, I'm with my family 100%. And that way is one of the practices that helped me in is being centered. And that's something that I learned in my past job. And so being present in whatever I'm doing has been my way. And my kids grew at home knowing that whenever they would come by and they wanted to speak to me, quite literally, even now after 19 years, now they're 19
Yeah.
years old, so I put my phone aside, I put my laptop aside, and then I just listen to them. And they have learned that. And so that's what I believe in. So be present in the moment. Even if you're doing 10 different things all at once, please do them in time capsules. So if I'm
Mm,
doing one of those 10 things right now, I would just focus on that one thing, and then I switch gear, and then I'll focus on that second thing. So to me, I'm not encouraging or endorsing, but I can be working for 15 hours without worrying about my work-life balance if I'm working, and
yeah.
the next morning not work at all, to just do what I want to do with my life and my family. And it's not something that you decide in isolation. As they say, you have multiple stakeholders, so your family is one of the stakeholders.
Yeah, totally.
So aligning that thought process with them to say, what, I'm going to be working, so I'll not be able to give time today. How do you go about that? But when I do all of that, I think for me, one other important thing, Sindhu, has been, much like, you love to dance, I like to sing, and meditate. And that's how, I balance my personal life. So no matter how stressful the work is, I don't
Hmm.
give up my that 30 to 45 minutes of every morning practice. And then, maybe singing a song or two on the way while driving or at home, wherever I can, that helps me.
Wow. Okay, that is amazing. So having like me time in the day to you.
Absolutely. Yes. And that can
Wow.
be any time. So the practice is in the morning, so I can't move it in any part of the day. But yeah, singing can happen whenever, so that
Yeah.
lightens the mood. But also, I think you asked something about how do
Yes.
I balance that
Yes.
with the
The demands
children.
of work and parenthood.
Yeah, the demands of the working parenthood. I don't know if you know, I've got twins.
I do.
So, when I had the twins, my wife had a job offer in hand, and we had to think about how do we do that with two newborns and her new job and my
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
And so I decided, and this is where people need to, think about the compromises and the choices that they make. So I thought about being a work from home dad for 18 months until, they got to a stage themselves. And so a lot of our friends and families called us stupid because it wasn't just something that everyone does. And we said
Society.
no, society, right? So we said okay, whatever. So that needed us to focus more time investing in our job, my job, and the kids. But everybody gets through. That's the
Yeah.
reality. Whether you like it or not, your kids will grow, and that's what happened. So we
Yeah.
spend that time balancing it, and knowing that that 18-month period may be perceived as a slow time in the career, but I didn't feel like that, because that
Yeah.
was the priority at that point of time. So are you willing to make those choices is really what is important, and knowing the implication of those choices.
Yeah. Did you feel
Hmm.
burnout at any point in time? And what steps have you taken to recover? And how do you, in general, also prioritize mental health with a high pressure environment overall in life?
Yeah, I won't be, completely true if I said no, I didn't feel the burnout at that point of time, right? So given I was in the US, I was in the West Coast, so I was a different time zone, and I had to move with my wife to the East Coast, which was a different time zone, and my clients and the rest of the team was in India, so that was a third time zone. Okay. So because of the flexibility that I exercised, I had to prepare to manage three time zones every day for the next 12 to 18 months. So
Wow.
that did, have a burnout effect, but I knew what was driving that. And maybe, 20 years ago or whatever time, we were not talking so much about such things, unfortunately.
No.
So it felt like, okay, I mean, no big deal. Everybody is becoming parent. They're all stretching. And so now in retrospect, I like to think about it. Oh, okay, great. I stretched, but did I burn out? I mean, I can't say that, but if I had to do it today, I will most certainly say that will burn me out left, right, and
Sure.
center. Yeah. But I guess, like I said, how did I deal with that? One is knowing that that's my choice. Okay, and it is for a limited period of time. So I'm just stretching right now to make sure I can meet all of these three goals of the family. But just having that meditation gives me that peace of mind to deal with the day that is coming to me, and that has helped. and and
It's,
and
I, yeah,
I'm sorry, just to complete my
no,
thought, there's a lot has been happening in the industry. We have heard some stories of people losing life, precious life, right? And so we are trying to do now more as an organization, but also as a leader, talk to more people and give them the psychological safety to talk about this burnout. and
yeah,
and can we really send them on holidays if they are not taking those, unconsciously or unknowingly, whatever. So that helped me as well. Whenever I've been trying to take on more than I can process, I have a conversation, with my leadership team, with my team members to say, okay, what would you give up? What would you want to take on? So as long as that's your decision, I think it works as a positive enforcement rather than a burnout,
mm,
because there is going to be an outcome of that. So if I'm doing something new, I'm going to acquire a skill, and when I look back, I won't call it like I burned to learn this new thing, right? Because it's coming out of passion. So
yeah.
even if it takes 2 hours extra in a day, I probably won't call it like burning.
Yeah. Wow. It gives a whole new perspective to burnout, honestly, what you said. And it's a choice, of course, that people are making and you're making for yourself. So you take the decision that, okay, and also believe that this is temporary. Right
Yes.
now, maybe I'm feeling like this, but once this phase passes, once I'm done with that certification or whatever, it's going to get better.
Yeah.
Lovely. Amazing.
There's just one other perspective into. I think what people don't realize that those are the people who are putting in something extra from their own life, right, to get where they want to be. So compare yourself not with others, but with yourself. What are you willing to invest to get whatever you want in your life, and that will define your speed. And if that means, yes, I will burn for next 12 months to get where I want to, then also just reinforce that in your own head that I signed up for it and hence I'm here. That helps.
Wow. And that kind of answers the other question that I was about to ask you with the advice that you have for people to stay patient and motivated over the course of a long career.
Think about your strength, where you want to be, and do that honest assessment, what you're putting in. Like they say, the more sugar you put in, the sweeter it is. It's the same
Yeah.
thing with career. But what you need to do is also remember to pat your back every time you do something new, every time you are experimenting with something new, and then share it with others. That dose of dopamine is required to
Yeah.
keep yourself self motivated. Who needs to encourage and appreciate the senior leaders? Nobody. They need to remain self motivated, right? Because their job is to
Yeah.
motivate everybody else. You are looking at your career 5, 10, 15, 20 years if you have that kind of vision. Otherwise, even if you're looking at 5 years, then you must have patience to see where you're getting in those 5 years. Keep assessing at every year. Is it
Mm.
incrementally moving there or not? Okay. So much of that patience is required. But if you're not getting what you thought in 4 or 5 years that you expected, then it is time to course correct, basis your honest assessment. I didn't do enough. I need to do something more, and that will help you. If
Yeah.
somebody gives constructive criticism, do take that as a gift
Work on
and
it.
do something about it.
Perfect. This is words of wisdom, like gold, literally gold. This conversation has made me reflect on my life. So thank you so much for sharing all this wisdom with me, with us today. Before I close, the next question would be, how do you lead a team through periods of uncertainty or transformation?
I mean, Sindhu, I think, when things are uncertain, a lot of times you see people hiding, facts and the situation and painting a rosy picture, right? If the economy is going down, you don't necessarily have to go and tell everybody, oh, there's nothing happening, right? Economy is great. We will survive. We will do everything well. So I think what I prefer, whenever we are doing some major transformation and uncertain phases in our career or job or at the firm more broadly, I prefer sharing that the way they are, with people.
Mm,
Sometimes the hard messages, land really hard if you just, say it as is. But then people appreciate that after they have heard it and processed it, rather than saying, oh, you know what, we are doing well, the country is not doing well, don't worry about it, we're terrific. And then later on you go back and tell them, sorry, the country wasn't doing good, so we didn't do well, right? So then along with that, having a positive belief that you can reinforce to say, oh, we are going through transformation, things are going to be bumpy, it may not work like the way we do, but if we do, we're all going to see some brighter side of the things.
mm,
So then people are also having, something that they're looking forward to rather than only thinking negative of the current situation. So yeah, I mean, transparency, honesty, and authenticity is the key, I would say, to manage
yeah.
through. Things don't work out always. Nothing wrong. Half of the world says fail faster. I don't necessarily agree with that. Why do I have to fail faster if I can succeed faster? So
Nice.
if there is something not working, just go and tell people, and
Yeah.
they don't like it, but they understand eventually.
I love it. It gives a realistic picture,
Yeah,
and hand in hand, again, going back to being a good leader is, of course, giving a realistic picture, but also standing with your team and be like, okay, we're in
exactly.
this together. We're here right now. Looking at the future, we're gonna see the light. So, uh,
Yes.
yeah,
And you have to
awesome.
honor that, huh? So you have to honor that. So, if you don't do it, then you lose the trust. Then you lose the
Then you lose
trust. So it's
credibility.
you lose credibility, right? So it's better to
Yeah,
set the right expectation and deliver on those rather than unreal.
good. That's a great segue to my next question. What is your approach to building and maintaining trust as a leader?
I think, how do you get trust is a very interesting question, because everybody in this world is trying to establish that with somebody else, and they don't know why it's working or why it's not working. I mean, my philosophy is, as they say, trust begets trust, right? And it takes a lot of time and mutual investment to build that trust. So you have to give that time, you have to have the patience, and if somebody comes and tells you something, so I have my own personal policy. I ask them, do you allow me to share it with anybody else? Okay.
Mm,
And if they say no, then I say sure. Then I honestly don't go and tell it to anybody. And if there is something really critical for a broader population and they come and share and they tell me not to do anything, I tell
yeah,
them, I'm obliged to do something about it, because in my role you have brought it to my awareness.
yeah,
So I cannot not do something if it has a broader form implication or somebody's life or personal
yeah,
interests at risk.
yeah,
So that, and eventually I've seen with time, as I said, if I knew something about the person, I didn't tell anybody, and the person himself went and told somebody, I say, okay, at least I didn't tell it. Then it becomes a
mm,
public news from the source.
yeah,
And people know that, because everybody is testing you every day as a leader. So if they tell you something and they hear it from someone else, they'll come back and tell you that they don't trust you anymore. So you
of
have a
course.
lot more
Yeah,
at risk as a person building that relationship.
yeah.
uh, so yeah, I mean, trusting and being, as they say, a little bit vulnerable yourself. So, so if I tell you something and I'm trusting you, I'm also, expressing my vulnerability and sharing something with you because I trust you, right? That's how the story goes. So
Yeah.
keeping it that and living that every day, because you have to practice what you preach. So as a leader, that's really crucial for me to not break somebody's trust if I don't have an explicit approval from them.
This is really, really great. Thank you so much, Satya, for having this conversation with me. Thank you so much for sharing your time, insights, experiences, and those gold words of wisdom with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure learning from your journey, your approach to leadership, and your perspective on work life integration. I'm sure our listeners will take away so much from this conversation. But as we wrap up, I'd love to leave our listeners with one final words of wisdom from you. So, do you have anything that you would like to share as closing comments for this podcast?
So first of all, Sindhu, thanks to you. I'm already feeling so much valued than probably I am as a person, and my experience is so limited. But thank you for your golden words. Uh, I think if I have to leave one message for your listeners, I think, nowadays you've got autonomous cars, but let's assume there are no autonomous cars. I see career, as that vehicle which is to be driven by you. So you are in the driver's seat. Okay. So think about which direction are you driving? What are the pit stops you're going to take? And then make sure you put the fuel in your car to get wherever you want to. So it's you, your choices, your decisions. Don't find answer in others. Blame others if you're not getting anywhere in your career. You can always change your direction. You can always change which car you're sitting in, and you know what I mean by the car then. and
Yes.
and so it's up to you to choose wisely, and then get where you are wanting to get to. So drive your car well. All the best to all of
Wow.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Satya, for sharing your words of wisdom. We're truly, as listeners, we're definitely going back with a lot of learnings to learn from somebody so experienced and amazing like yourself. So thank you for being with us. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Corporate Connect. In our next episode, we are in conversation with someone who is thriving in the corporate world and also balancing a full time dance career. So do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more.